another edition of Not Just Another Sports Show. Again, I am your host, KD, and I have my co-host. You all know him and love him. The world-renowned, often imitated, never do. My boy Tank. Give it up for Tank, everybody.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? How y'all doing this evening?
Everything is well. Everything is fine. Everything is dandy. And we have a special show for you today. We're going to be covering a few topics, just to get it off our chest, in the football area, because we are now enjoying the football season. We did see the Steelers meet Buffalo tonight, and the Cowboys playing over the Raiders. So that went out, with a bang tonight. But we're not going to discuss that until we get one thing clear. We want to let everybody know to go to the bottom of that screen and make sure you hit that subscribe button for Not Just Another Sports Show. And make sure you go to nojazzbutton@gmail.com. Ask us any questions you may have. Send us some feedback. Make sure you put some suggestions in the commentary. Leave some tips, comment, and let us know. And then before we move forward, also, we got to make sure we give a shout out to the people who pay us and bring you all this show. Make sure you order all your wings and all of your food from lightsnack.com. And then make sure if you order any food from lightsnack.com, make sure you order those Magic City wings on lightsnack.com, and also Uber Eats, DoorDash, but they don't actually sponsor us, but you can order off that platform, just so, because Magic City did say something about, we're on all the platforms, so just say that. So I should just say all the platforms. I did that for Magic City. And then also make sure you is wearing your loungewear around the house, sport wear, athletic wear. Make sure you go to Quick Visits and get all of your wares and make sure everything is good for you in your comfortable days being around the house. All right, we're going to start. And I want to know, because a lot of people are bringing this up. We were talking about coaches last night when we the last episode when we said something about the John Madden movie, and we were bringing up the history of coaches. And saga continues, the drama continues. First year you might get your 6-10. The next year they're gonna want those 11 games. When you win those 11 games, they might allow you to say, okay, somebody just in your division or whatever had a better year. You didn't make the playoffs. So that next year, they expect the playoffs. When the year after that, they might give you another year of the same, but Super Bowl is always the expectation for everyone. Then there's the other side of that. Sometimes you start out fast. You just have a veteran team that's ready to win. A solid young core that's ready to win. And end up going 12. End up showing up when you're not supposed to show up. But, and then you go 6-10, 6-10, and 11. And then you just start being mediocre, and all that promise and all that hype from that first year 12-win season never comes to fruition because you never make it to the Super Bowl and win, and all the fans behind you are like, off with his head. So the point I'm getting at right now is, which coaches are in the hot seat? What do you think, Tank?
First and foremost, it's got to be Mike McCarthy. And somebody's going to say, you must be crazy. They've won 12 games 3 years in a row. Jerry Jones said himself out of his own mouth when asked, why haven't they extended McCarthy? And he said, Green Bay. That in itself lets you know he's still upset over them getting smoked by Absolutely. Green Bay, an upstart team last year. And it's like, hey, as far as Jerry is concerned, he's got Dallas has everything they need in order to make a real run. And he would like to make a run before he takes his dirt nap. So they've got to, Dallas has got to, at minimum, make it to the conference championship. Dallas has 4 playoff wins in the past 28 years.
Not good.
Dallas hasn't made it to a conference championship since 95.
Not good.
Jerry is spending this money, and he wants to see some results. For Mike McCarthy, you are on the hot seat. And it sounds crazy when you think about somebody winning 12 games 3 years in a row. But it's because of the team that it is and the owner that you have and what the expectations for that particular fan base is and the expectations of the owner. I also think that Saleh is on the hot seat with the Jets. And normally you wouldn't think so, but because Rodgers is coming back and they're expecting Rodgers to be able to take them over the hump. Think about it, this team hadn't been anywhere since 2010. Yet they're looking at somebody, the coach who's in his third year. He hasn't won any game. He's won like 19 games in 3 years. So they want to see a return on the investment this year. And you basically got Rodgers for this year. You don't know if he's going to get extended or if he's going to retire or what. So it's all or nothing for Saleh and the Jets. Making it to the playoffs and losing in the first round is not enough, because if Rodgers decides to hang it up or they decide they're not going to re-sign Rodgers, the Jets are back to the drawing board trying to find a quarterback, because we already know what happened last time they drafted the quarterback in the first round, Zach Wilson, Cobra Kai. It just didn't work. And somebody who's on the hot seat, I think, is probably going to be Antonio Pierce with the Raiders. And you might say after 1 year, and I say yes, because the Raiders, they have nothing. Pierce that got them motivated to play a little bit for him when he took over. But they went and interviewed some of everybody before they decided, okay, we're going to hire Pierce. He wasn't their first or second choice. Now he's got the audacity to come into the season with Minshew and O'Connell as who's going to be the starting quarterback, and he's just signed Nathan Peterman. You can't win anything with any of those three, and I wouldn't be surprised if the same thing happened to him that the 49ers did with, I can't even remember his name now because he was one and done after Singletary. So those are my three who are really on the hot seat. Mark Davis wants to win now. Mark Davis might like Pierce, but if he doesn't see at least 8 or 9 wins and the team looks that bad, which I think they will, he could be out of there. He get flushed out real quick because he is his daddy's son, and we know Al Davis would get rid of a coach in a heartbeat. If you don't think that those coaches, so those are the three that I think on the hot seat because of fan base and because of ownership and because of how things have been going. The Raiders aren't set up to win, but they think that they've got the right guy. But are they going to give him time to get the way he needs to be? The Cowboys, they want to win yesterday. The Jets, their fan base, they think they have everything together. Saleh is a defensive coach, and they've got a defense that's locked and loaded. The offense, they feel, is locked and loaded. They only need a trigger man, which is Aaron Rodgers, and they think that he's ready now to get things done. So those are the three that I think are on the hot seat. And if they don't come through, if any of those three that don't come through, I wouldn't be surprised to see them blown out. Dallas could actually blow McCarthy out by week 12 if things really look bad.
Absolutely. Dallas could Dallas turn things with Mike McCarthy early if he loses to Dan Quinn. And they haven't been winning or been on a win streak. To your, I want to say, I think the noise is out about Kyle Shanahan. The excuses he's been able to give on Garoppolo's head. The excuses he's been able to give in regards to the play calling, the situation that happened with the game, all of that is coming down on Kyle Shanahan's head right now. And he is one of those, well, why would you get rid of him? He's been to NFC Championship games. On your trip to the playoffs, it's hyperbolized because so they want you to go ahead and get over that hump because athletically, we get the Cowboys, and I say we because I'm a Cowboys fan, but athletically and talent-wise and expectation-wise, the Cowboys get overhyped because of who they are, fandom, and everything. But head-to-head, the San Francisco 49ers are just as athletic, just as talented as the Cowboys. Green Bay is creeping up on their door. I don't think a Super Bowl appearance in hand. I believe he's at that type of high. I think if something happens where he doesn't win a Super Bowl this year and his entitled I'm Mike Shanahan's son behavior or situation is going to end up biting him at some point in time. That doesn't mean he won't get a job in the NFL within that year, coordinator or something. I'm not saying that. But head coach, I think he's in the hot seat because San Francisco will indeed cut those ties because they've just been getting too close. So he's the one that
he would. I believe if Shanahan was fired, he would definitely be hired by the next team that was looking for a head coach. But Shanahan, my problem with Shanahan is he outcoaches himself. He overcoaches. And with the team that he has now, with all of that offensive talent, instead of just doing the little things and simple things that they need to do to win, because they've got the talent. They've got as much or more talent on offense than anybody else in the league. And he wants to make sure that he shows you every little thing that they can do. Watch, I can make McCaffrey run a counter as opposed to just letting him run a sweep. Look, we can pull Trent Williams and have him running all the way across the field to open up a hole. We can do all this with Debo. We can do this with IU. Watch all this stuff that we're going to do, as opposed to just going out and playing football. We don't need to see everybody featured every week. Figure out who you're going to feature that week and who's going to be secondary and so on, and go with that. If it's not working, then you switch. You don't have to just start saying, hey, I know I can kill you by shooting 2 bullets, but this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to start shooting everything that I've got. You don't need to do that. You don't need overkill because you mess around and you miss the mark because you want to use this one instead of using that.
Remember,
he needs to stop overcoaching.
You said it. You said it before I can get to it. He overcoaches, and I believe him is, in a word, a show off. And this might be a personality thing. He wants to somehow be, and I hate flip-flopping. I hate flip-flopping sports, but I think somehow he wants to be Tex Winters and Phil Jackson and say, I created the triangle. It's my system. I can put anybody in here himself, because he doesn't want the players to get the credit. And, and I guess it's like the psychology of it, his personality doesn't realize that credit because it's just, and you'll still get the credit. Like, still hard to take the credit away from Bill Belichick.
Right.
But I think he really is. He overcoaches to, I can take IU out of it and put in the young man that played wide receiver last year that was a quarterback. And he got the passes. I think he's doing too much of that and overcoaching overtime rules.
Yeah.
And I believe that's what has him now. On to this next one. I want you to give me some information on, since we're talking about the lineman, I'm talking about pressure on a QB.
There's two, actually, there's three, but the main one is the obvious. It's Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, for everything that he's done, for everything that he did when he was in Green Bay, for things that he did leaving Green Bay, for all the off field stuff, even going back years to I've been vaccinated, I've been immunized when COVID was going on, talking around, trying to be a politician, always wanted to seem as though he's the smartest guy in the room. He went out last year, 4 plays in, pop, there goes his Achilles, and poof, out went the air out of the balloon with the Jets. He's coming back, and last year, because he's such an attention whore, last month of the season in December, he was talking like, okay, I could come back and play this year. I'm thinking, I might be able to play. He wasn't going to play, but because the spotlight wasn't on him anymore, he wanted to let people know, hey, I'm still here. I'm healing up, but there's a possibility I could play this year. I could return and play, even though I just tore my Achilles. If he had come back and played, it would have snapped. Tell you what, it would have happened. What would have happened had he come back and played last year in December? If you remember in Friday Night Lights, Boobie Miles came back to play because he was so anxious to get out there. He couldn't play. He got out there with a bad knee. If he had taken his time, he could have rehabbed and come back a little later in the season. Instead, he gets out there and pop, there goes his knee, and he's done for the season. And that's it. And he's looking like this. And the coach is looking disgusted and basically says, okay, he's done. Give me another back. That's the same thing that would happen with Rodgers and the Packers last year if he come back. This year, everyone is saying the Packers, the Jets have everything they need offensively and defensively, and you need Rodgers just to pull the trigger. If he doesn't produce to the high level that he has in the past, he's going to end up out of there. They're going to move on from Aaron Rodgers because he's 40. You don't want to come back with a 41-year-old quarterback and say, okay, well, let's run it back again. How much are you going to pay Aaron Rodgers at the age of 41? Are you going to sign him for one more year, or are you going to sign him for another 2 years? You don't want him to hold you hostage because he's Aaron Rodgers and because you think you're that close. You think you're just a quarterback away, and you're really not. So I think he's the one who's on the most hot. I think he's the one who's on the hot seat the most. He needs to come out there and produce. Now he needs to get them to at least the first round of the playoffs. If he can get the Jets to the first round of the playoffs and ideally win a game, but just get them to the playoffs, it's like, okay, we're there. We look like we're close because they haven't been since 2010. The other two quarterbacks that I think on the hot seat for obvious reasons and is Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. The reason I say that is because they're both being paid just over $1 million on the same team with the Steelers. One of them is going to, ideally, one of them is going to get a long-term deal when this season is over, and the other is going to be trying to get signed somewhere else. As far as long-term, you will hope that Justin Fields takes the reins and runs away with it because that sets you a quarterback for the next 10 years. If he doesn't and Russell Wilson plays well, you're going to sign Russell for maybe 2 or 3 years as a short term and then try to find you your next franchise quarterback. Both of them are playing for their career right now. Russell's playing because, he'll be with it. He'll wind up with his fourth team in 3 years if he doesn't play well with the Steelers because he's not coming back to Pittsburgh as a backup. he's not going to want to do it, and Pittsburgh is not going to want him back as a backup, and he's not going to pay for $1 million. Remember, Denver is paying him all that money, but they're basically paying him so that he can play for the Steelers. Justin Fields, in his 4th year, nobody's going to pick up his 5th-year option. Pittsburgh wasn't going to do it because you haven't seen anything from him the previous 4 years to sign him long-term. But ideally, you would like for him to show you enough to say, this is our franchise guy by the time the season is up. So for me, those 3 are under the most pressure. And somebody else who's going to be under some pressure, but he's got time. But, these days they get rid of quarterbacks quick. Bryce Young in Carolina, he's under some pressure because after last year, as bad as it was, they're going to expect him to improve by leaps and bounds going into his 2nd year, because generally the quarterback's greatest progress, or his most progress he makes, is from his rookie season to his 2nd season. And Bryce Young has got to show them that he can be the answer. They've got to surround him with more and with better talent. But the same thing but if he doesn't show them something, Bryce Young could wind up being Josh Rosen. Remember, Rosen played for 1 year. They had a new coach come in, blew him out, and drafted Kyler Murray. I don't think that they're realistically going to do that with Bryce Young. But if they don't see something real from Bryce Young, in spite of the fact that he's got nothing down there, they might be willing to just scrap it and start over. So for me, those are my quarterbacks who are on the hot seat. And, well, not necessarily the hot seat, but have the most to prove.
All right. And for me, so you want to say something?
Go ahead.
Oh. Of course, Dak Prescott. And I'm not going to speak on him too much. I'm just going to say Dak Prescott. I'm not going to tell you why he needs to leave. I'm not going to tell you the history of why I would feel that way about a man with that many stats. I'm just going to say Dak Prescott. And it should answer all your questions. And I'm going to go out on a limb because of the situation he's in, and it might not seem like a situation, but it is a situation. But it might not seem like a situation, but it is. Kirk Cousins is maybe not a hot seat, but a short leash. Or if you don't want to hear the young man that was in the national championship game last year, our 1st round draft pick, black quarterback in this black city. I think Kirk Cousins has a hot seat of sorts. Even with his injury, he could be pushing it, just to make sure.
Okay, I'm gonna push back on Cousins a little, and normally I would say yes, but I think that he's been given a longer leash, not because of the money, but because they decided that Michael Penix isn't gonna play at all in the preseason. And if you're not letting him get any game experience in the preseason,
yeah, they didn't want to open up. They didn't want see, and that's the thing. They did not want to open up any of those possibilities of, look how good he played. They closed the door for that. And see, that's why I said what I said. However, something that you're seeing in practice and in camp that we're not seeing, you've decided to do that for some reason. Is he why you decided to do that? We're going to find out, because that depth chart's going. And if a guy in the preseason can be QB2, we'll see. Because that's going to be a question. Why is he QB2?
Yeah, and also we know Penix has the injury history. Penix has been hurt every year he was in college except for last year. So that's factoring in as well. I mean, he's got what 2-3 reconstructed knees, so maybe that's factoring into trying to make sure he doesn't get injured again.
Which brings me to my next point. Isn't that a bad QB situation? You have one guy, your starter, who's injury prone, coming off an injury, old age, and another guy you don't think he can take because he didn't play in the preseason.
Las Vegas Raiders, hands down. You got O'Connell and you got Minshew, and now you signed Nathan Peterman. I don't know how Nathan Peterman. Apparently, Nathan Peterman has some naked pictures of Mark Davis and Antonio Pierce riding buck naked on a horse somewhere.
Right.
Because there's no reason that man should be taking snaps even in flag football. Yet he signed back again. Gruden signed him. And now you've got Pierce bringing him back. I mean, if you're bringing him back, that also tells me that you aren't seeing what you would like to see in practice or in these games from Minshew and O'Connell to make you feel like, hey, though we got something we working here at quarterback to get us through. Because O'Connell and Minshew are stopgaps at the best. And Peterman isn't even a stopgap. If nothing else, he's a camp body. And camp is about over. So hands down, the Raiders have the worst quarterback situation. They've got a bad running back situation. I'm not sure if Zamir White, what he's going to be able to do as a feature back. And I'm not sure if anybody's going to be able to get the ball to Devontae Adams. And Ricky from Georgia, I don't know if I want to say Shockey for whatever reason, but that's not his name. But I don't expect anything, production from their offense as far as when it comes down to the passing game. Yeah. I don't expect any kind of production from that position.
In Atlanta because of that situation in Indianapolis.
They got rid of him. He left.
Minshew.
I don't know who the backup is. No, Minshew is with the Raiders.
Oh yeah, Minshew with the Raiders now.
Remember, Minshew was with the Raiders. Yeah. I can't remember who the backup is with them. But
Richardson in the AFC South. You have Trevor Lawrence, AFC, and Tennessee's
Will Levis.
QB1 teams.
So you're going by the depth.
The depth, I think their depth is they're just too all or nothing, and it's not their fault. By default, they're all. So you're not going to in there. Trevor Lawrence is still a young man, so it's like you are sacrificing. And God forbid any of them get hurt. Everybody don't need to go through a Joe Burrow, and that's a bad situation. Well, no, that guy behind Joe Burrow keeps them in a good situation, so I can't put them in a bad situation.
Yeah.
But it's like you have, I don't see anybody coming behind them, and if they're out, the season won't carry on. It's just South.
I'm sorry, I just can't get past the Raiders situation. I mean, that is a real cluster, and I've never seen a quarterback situation that bad. I mean, they don't have a legitimate starting quarterback on the roster.
The Raiders situation is definitely one not to brag about, and it's almost like themselves are attempting to not come back to glory by doing what they're doing. Like it's just things have a snake bite, but those Raiders, ever since that Gruden situation, it hasn't been good for them either. And speaking of Gruden situations and documentaries and everything like that, I want to ask you this question. Because they might end up with a document. And when I'm saying the Gruden situation, the AB situation in that Gruden situation, racism situation, there's a documentary. Yeah. There's a documentary coming out about that whole thing, and they're going to look into that. And I saw some interviews with Max Crosby, and he was talking about that. But it just got me to thinking, how they're going to bring that, home. And I was just wondering.
I'm a football guy, so overall, I like the football life because it's something that I love. But 30 for 30, when they do theirs, they're able to make even people who are in sports that I don't care anything about appealing, and I will watch them. And they've done some. I think that 30 for 30 does a better job because they're longer and they go more in depth. Because football life has had some that are hit or miss, or some because when you watch a documentary, you want to learn something. You want to know something, find out something about them, a person that you didn't know. For one of the worst ones football life they ever did was Michael Vick's situation. Because I didn't learn anything about Vick that I didn't already know. I felt like I was watching something, like I was watching a rerun, because there was no new revealing information that I found out about. Now, when ESPN has done theirs on the pump, like I'm just gonna name a few of my favorite episodes of 30 for 30. The U Part 1.
Absolutely, that's number. That's number one.
Yeah, Pony Excess.
Number one
yeah, and also Broke. I mean, to do a to do something on guys losing all their money, 2 hours, and it's actually good, and you're like, man, it was excellent. They do make films. These are actual movies that they do, 2-hour movies that they do, and they always reveal and dig up stuff that you didn't know about or you didn't have as much detail. Like for Pony Excess, for example, I never knew before I watched it. I remember it happening and all of that, but I never knew that all the guy at SMU, all he had to do when they asked him about that envelope that he sent to David was, hey, I sent him an insurance policy.
That's all he had to do.
And that would have been it. All he had to do is say, I don't remember.
Right.
Instead of saying, yeah.
I sent him.
If he had answered differently, SMU might have still remained in business for a while longer. And possibly the SWAC might not have ever broken up.
He answered would that I don't feel like that's not his. It wasn't arrogant, but to other people it could be arrogant. He answered like, I'm a Texas or not that.
Yeah.
I'm untouchable. Like that's just, he answered with that attitude. What are you gonna do?
And he found out. And
I believe, and I'm glad you're bringing up that point. I believe the sentence of the death penalty, as they call it, was a message first sent to anybody rich in Texas. If you know, the VCUs in Texas have like the greatest facilities. Man, like these are like Texas football is but I mean funding.
Yeah.
Way above everybody else. Way above everybody.
Yeah. The high school stadium seats 60,000.
Way above everybody else. And you mentioned Friday Night Lights. Friday Night Lights was so big from a Texas standpoint till you had to go and do a movie about the team from Dallas and what them boys did. And it had its own story.
Yeah.
Not about the.
Yeah. And I believe that when he answered that question the way he did, that's what broke up the SWAC.
Broke it up.
The SWAC, everybody started leaving. Now, would it have happened later? Possibly. But if he hadn't said it when he did, I think the SWAC would have still been going on for a while longer.
5 years. 5 years at most, no documentary. But that was very harsh because everybody was doing it. Everybody was doing it. Okay.
And everybody knew everybody was
Everybody
doing
knew
it.
everybody was doing it. So it's like that was so much. That was so much. It wasn't like SMU. They had what they had, and their system was going on, but it still was not like SMU had turned in. They were the Alabama of that time. They were about to beat the Alabama coming up at that time. They were the USC. It wasn't like they had a dynasty by no means. So like they had no reason. They were not tilted
Yeah,
the arrogance.
I just think that, yeah, and like I said, for me, the subject matter of football life is better because it covers what I like. But as far as the production and as far as everything for overall, if I had to choose based on what a documentary is and everything, I have to go with 30 for 30 because they never fail. Even boring subjects, they are able to make you look and listen, and like they did the one in 1994, when Simpson was getting away, was riding in the Bronco, and there was also the NBA playoffs and everything that was going on there, and the one on the two Escobars, all that things I don't care anything about, but they still managed to make them compelling enough for you to watch them. So for me, overall, barring subject matter, 30 for 30 does a better job.
I'm gonna
But I love a football life, but yeah, but I love a football life because it covers, like I said, it covers what I'm into. Even though they do have some people that I really don't care. Wes Walker, I didn't care to hear about his life story. I really didn't care. It was interesting, but I didn't care about Wes Walker's life.
for me, uh it's a split. It's kind of like it has a Apple Android. Something does better here, something does better here. I think NFL football life takes they're on that NFL films um footage. I think the NFL has their vault that's so locked in and so private. Even ESPN 30 for 30 documentaries can't get footage that they get. Now, they have not figured out how to take the writers and the production and create the story outside of Steve and Ed Sable speaking over that footage to create the documentaries that ESPN 30 for 30 does. But their footage, visual, the NFL football life has is way up there somewhere. It's going. Now, as you said, when you give us information in 30 for 30 that we didn't have, the human side, you know, when you speak to that guy and you're allowing them to that area that we wouldn't get into, I think 30 for 30 surpasses NFL football life. But my take on that is NFL football life attempting to always kind of not do that because it protects the NFL brand to a degree. I don't want you to know everything because it opens up Pandora's box that we've had to hide about players. Keep this under here, so we're gonna keep it family and kind of, but
They
in that
don't.
lane,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. A lot of times they don't go as deep as you would
right?
like on certain things. Now, some things and but what they've done with some of the people that I like is because you didn't really ever get to hear them do a lot of talking or whatnot, so you find out more. Like the James Harrison, I love that one. I love the Eric Dickerson one. I loved, but I would like for a football life to have the show make it an hour and a half or 2 hours, so that a lot of that footage that gets cut out that we get to see it film. They don't just try to put it all into 1 hour. Because people who really like it, they're going to sit there and they're going to watch the 1.5 or the 2
What
hours.
about
Now, what I don't like, what I hope,
Hard-
no, it's too much of a reality show for me. I don't, because you got guys who want to do that. Yeah, I haven't watched multiple episodes of that in any season because I just don't like
Absolutely.
it. I don't need to see all that. I don't need to hear all that.
I actually was on an episode of Hard Knocks with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, man, and I was asked a question. They said I when I was working with the Buccaneers, they were like, I had the camp situation, and I would check in the players. And I have I got to find that footage. It has to be somewhere. I don't think it was Hard Knocks in. It was just called something else. I don't think HBO had it, but it was still the But at any rate, I was asked a question, and they said, "What do you do when the player comes and you missed him?" I politely looked up Tank and I said, "We don't miss." And, like, I knew back then. Corporate mind knew back then. Don't put yourself in a position to let anybody see any kinks in your armor, baby. And I did it. I was feeding those men. And I had a department. But anyway, my point in saying all that was I did not know how important when I said we don't miss for breakfast, dinner, and lunch. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I said we don't miss. And I know I took it personal from a department standpoint. I said we don't miss. The producers still had to room floor footage. We got to put that out there. And I didn't know that and produced that when they put that out, me saying that line to the Buccaneers organization. That somebody took that and looked at Dungy, what Dungy was. Dungy was the coach at that time. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know it until I think John Lynch. Shout out to John. Brought it to me. They was like, we are very serious here. If the dude who taking in the lunch so anyway, my point is, and they love the fact that I said we don't miss. Nothing that's needed to be.
Yeah, that's like you said, it can sum up and say, hey, this is the spirit of this franchise. We don't miss.
This organization, yes.
Yeah.
And it was and of course, I took all the credit. Was like, I knew what I was doing. Yeah, and I mean, I knew what I was doing.
Hey, they don't know if you knew it or not.
They don't know if I knew it or not. God was with me on that one, boy. But anyway, having said,
yep. I'm just glad the football season is back. I'm looking forward to it. And for me, because they keep talking about doing some other things with cutting it down to 2 preseason and making it 18 weeks. I don't want to see that. We don't need to extend anything else, because what makes football as special as it is because it's so compact and so brief. You don't have time to get down by 10 games and say, oh, okay, we're still in it. So this just Tank's take. Goodell, Castro, don't do that. Owners, don't do that. Don't cheapen what makes the National Football League and football season special. Don't let greed cheapen your product. We like that the season and that the regular season is 4 months, and then you got a month and a week for the postseason. We don't need it. We don't need football season going into late February or going into March because y'all want to be greedy and claim that you're looking out for players' interests and their health, but you're actually putting them out there to bang for another game. So leave the product as it is. Hope you guys stay safe. Looking forward to seeing who winds up winning the Steelers starting position, if it's going to be Wilson or Fields. And y'all make sure that y'all keep tuning in to No Jazz. KD, bring us home.
I like Tank's take, and what I took from Tank's take is this: it's a business, and the 18 weeks is definitely a business. I'm pretty sure they have some information and data that lets them believe that 18 weeks and those possibility of a two bye weeks, one whole bye week. Each individual team gets their normal 1 week off, and then the whole league gets that bye week. Where make the Super Bowl itself. I don't know if that's President's Day or something. You get the Monday off after the Super Bowl, but you make that mid-season full team bye week your All-Star Pro Bowl week, and you now have different things where it might float into the NBA, and then both of you all as a brand can decide, hey, you know what? Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna have a Pro Bowl All-Star weekend or a Pro Bowl weekend. We're gonna let NFL / guys play basketball against each other in a skills competition. Guys play flag football. Somebody's gonna find out how to make that some money. However, to Tank's take, that still is interpreted by the players as after that week, Sunday's gonna come again, Thursday gonna come again, Monday gonna come again. How many of y'all gonna be lackadaisical and put your pads back on and strap up the right way to get to the second half of the season? How many of y'all are going to play like the NBA plays, which the NBA is losing because the season really don't start until after the Pro Bowl week? You lose out. Right now, 17 weeks of a football season is the playoffs the whole time. Even though in November it kind of begins, but you get that fast start, you can tail off in November and still win 2 games and still make it to the tournament. So that's what Tank is saying. Like we don't want you to become the second, third year, because I hate this too. We don't want you to become the second year, third year quarterback, we didn't want him to get hurt. Now we got quarterbacks in the preseason taking their shoulder pads off and putting on the cap like they did something last year. No, you need to be getting all the reps. My point is, keep the purity of the game, because the interpretation of that thing out end up playing like you're going to be there next year. Coach, NFL stands for not for long. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason why we were talking about being in the hot seat today. There's a reason why we're holding on to names like Aaron Rodgers, but we know Rodgers Aaron is on the way. We're not going to be in the booth. The NFLs and make others faster than any other league. And the NFL is not holding on the way the NBA is holding on to Michael Jordan. We let Joe Montana and Lawrence Taylor go. And you players, now a benefit of 18 weeks to turn you into a star. You become a star, and you become a superstar in the playoffs. And having said all that, this has been KD signing off for Not Just Another Sports Show. We got my boy Tank, giving him a salute. And also, before we close, please make sure you subscribe to not just another sports show. No Jazz button at gmail.com. Subscribe, hit the subscribe button. Comment, give us some suggestions. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know what we need to do. Live shows coming up. Live interactive football games coming up. Sunday night football, Monday night football. No Jazz. It's coming up. It's coming, folks. And make sure you go to our support all of your food delivery orders. Order at lightsnack.com. Make sure you order those Magic City Wings. Also, you let